Start your own business is franchising, buying into an existing profitable company with an established record. It's a big business, $750 billion a year in this country.
When most people think of franchises, they think of the big names like McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts. But those established successes represent only a small fraction of the 3,500 franchises in the market. The rest are little-known companies with unproven track records. Tonight, franchisees who gambled and lost in part 2 of my series, Buying In, Losing Out.
If you have any more questions, feel free to fill that out and I can mail it to you. Mail you more information.
Ma'am, did you get some information? You did? Why not?
They had a booth set up at the show, and I was interested, and I'd been thinking about opening up my own business for some time.
Jay Marino thought he'd found his ticket to the American dream at a booth at one of the annual franchise expos in Boston. Like many who long to own a business but fear going out totally on their own, he liked the security of buying into an established success. Hoping to exchange his bus driver's job at the MBTA for being his own boss, he paid Express 10-Minute Lube of New Hampshire $25,000 and was promised his own garage. But it was an empty promise because Express Lube never delivered.
It was just one site after another was supposed to be acquired. Always fell through for some reason or another. And it was just like a series of lame excuses all the time.
After 2 years of what Jay calls the runaround from the owner of Express Lube, he tried to get his $25,000 back.
Basically, what he told me was I was in it come hell or high water, and then that was it. And if I didn't like it, take him to court.
Flat broke, with nothing to show for his investment, Jay was forced to give up, concentrating his efforts instead on repaying the $25,000 he'd borrowed to pay Express Lube.
I took out a mortgage on my family's home, which has made me an outcast in my family between my brothers and sisters who won't talk to me now. And it just turned into a real mess, a real fiasco.
I said, I'm no longer interested in Express Lube. And I said, I'll see you in court.
Tony Kennedy was also burned by Express 10-Minute Lube. With 4 children and the desire to own his own business, he was intrigued by the promise of his own lucrative garage to be built in Burlington. So, using his house as collateral, Tony got the money to get started.
I wrote a check from our home equity line of credit to Express Lube in payment of the franchise fee.
$25,000.
$25,000.
But it soon became painfully obvious to Tony that Express Lube was stalling and the deal wasn't going to happen.
Many, many weeks would go by where they would not respond to phone calls from the owner of the land to follow up and arrange meetings and sign the lease.
After more than 6 months, Express Lube failed to negotiate the lease. The site was lost, and Tony was left with nothing.
We believe that they were absolutely negligent.
In other words, you don't think they ever had any intention of signing a lease for that land?
We wonder. We wonder. I mean,
Tony Kennedy took his case against Express Lube to binding federal arbitration and won. A full refund was ordered, but to date, he hasn't seen a penny of it.
That money has all been spent on real estate, legal fees, and other costs.
And, says owner Ron Marino, there is no other money. Because of the New England recession, Express Lube is broke.
The financial situation at this point in time is that Express Lube Center Services, Inc., the corporation which the judgment rests against, has no income and has no means by which to pay any settlements.
The corporation may be broke, but its owners certainly are not. Marino and his wife Cheryl also own 5 Express Lube locations throughout southern New Hampshire, all operating in the black. They own this house in Kingston, New Hampshire, valued at $250,000. Cheryl drives a late model Jaguar, and documents on file in the Rockingham County Superior Court in New Hampshire show the Marinos' cumulative annual income has been well over $300,000. But Ron Marino feels no personal responsibility for honoring the arbitration decision to repay Tony Kennedy.
I personally am not responsible for that decision.
Though some might argue that ethically Ron Marino should repay Kennedy out of his personal funds, the law sides with Marino. When Kennedy complained to the Federal Trade Commission, he got no help.
If there isn't any money there to pay the judgment, there's nothing that the federal government can do to, you know, squeeze blood out of a stone, basically.
So Tony Kennedy is left with nothing, the victim of weak federal laws that essentially allow anyone to incorporate and sell a franchise.
That's assuming that the company that wants to sell franchises is going to do it legally, because God knows how many franchisors are out there who claim not to be or have just disregarded the laws and are out there selling franchise opportunities.
And Tony Kennedy and Jay Marino are the losers.
Do you have any hope of getting a franchise?
No, none at all.
Do you have any hope of getting your money back?
Not really.
What do you think of this guy?
What do I think of him? I can't say it on camera what I really think of him, but I think Mr. Marino, if he didn't start out to be a scam artist, he sure as hell became one pretty quick.
In retrospect, Jay Marino and Tony Kennedy say they wish they'd sought legal expertise and spent more time studying the contract they signed with Ron Marino and Express Lube. And despite Kennedy's arbitration success, there's no reason to believe that either he or Marino will ever see a dime of their investments again.
Doesn't that come to the heart of it, Susan? The big guys are always going to have attorneys to protect their own fannies in these things, and they're not going to pay up. I mean, shouldn't you be aware going in that if you don't have everything drawn in your end to protect yourself, you could have a problem down the road?
That's absolutely true, Jack, and unfortunately, at this point in time, there are no state or federal laws that protect people. No laws that protect the franchisees who, as you say, Jack, have not taken it upon themselves to write up a very strict contract. And unfortunately, when it comes to franchising, the franchisors appear so strong, all-powerful, and kind of like Big Brother, and they say, trust me, trust me. And so the franchisee...
And you think you're getting into a partnership that's going to benefit both of you.
Tomorrow night we look at some of the problems with the laws specifically.
Yeah, there seems like there's some room for that. And you wonder why he isn't forced express into bankruptcy, too. Why
Exactly. The laws all work for the franchisor.
All right, Susan, thank you very much.